We're here for our third Golden Eagle Insider over Zoom. This time our guest is head Minnesota Crookston women's soccer coach Kyle Halfpop, also joined by Hunter Plant as well. Just Kyle, welcome to our little Zoom Golden Eagle Insider today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Another Zoom meeting.
Yeah, I think we've all gotten accustomed to lots of Zoom meetings over the last 3 months, but it's at least a way we can all communicate, and it'll be nice when we can all kind of meet in person here. Hopefully in the near future.
Yeah, for sure. It's about time to have some real interaction. It feels not that this feels fake or anything like that, but it's definitely tiresome to see people on through a computer screen and have that kind of interaction. So
it 100% is. I definitely agree with what you're saying.
It has kept some sense of normalcy though, to see everyone a little bit. You know, if without Zoom, I don't know what we'd be doing. So we'll say that.
I'm with you there.
No, it'll definitely be exciting when we can get back onto campus. I know the few times that I have been able to go there for different things, it's been nice. Every time I've met up with facilities manager Dave Danforth, but it's just nice to see a person face to face rather than over Zoom.
Yeah.
So first off, Kyle, just kind of checking in, just how has everything been going? I know it's probably been pretty busy over the last 3 months with the kids and probably some school that you guys have been doing remotely, but just how has everything been going in the Halfpop household?
Yeah, it's been good. Obviously this pandemic thing, altered our plans a little bit as far as what we were doing as a family. It probably helped us a little bit, to be honest, just because it was able to bring our whole family together, probably 2 months ahead of schedule, which was nice. And like you said, like helping our daughters with school and stuff like that is kind of an awakening process of like, oh, I forgot all this stuff from being in grade school. And then sometimes you surprise yourself and you're like, oh yeah, I do remember some of this stuff. So that's kind of been eye-opening. And then, both of our older daughters have done Spanish immersion.
Yep.
That's all they've known for school. And so, on top of that busyness that you try and help them with their schoolwork, but then my Spanish is very minimal. And so that brings on a whole nother set of challenges, and same with my wife. And so trying to keep up there has been challenging, but having the whole family together has been awesome, and spending time with them and all of our kids has been really great. We took our 2 little ones out of daycare, for, I think it was about 10 weeks. We just put them back in so we could start getting work done again a little bit. But just having everyone around has been good. You learn stuff, you see your kids grow and learn stuff every day, especially at their ages. They're all pretty young, and so they're all developing differently. It's fun to see. It can be challenging, but that's part of being a parent. That's part of raising kids, and we wouldn't change it for the world. And I know it's difficult, and I know a lot of people get stressed out about it, and we have too, but you got to sit back and reflect, and this is time that you can spend with your children, and it's been awesome. We love it. We wish we could get out of the house a little bit more and do some activities because we do have some high energy kids at times, but
sure.
It's been awesome to spend time with them, but also missing soccer and stuff like that at the same time, and just being around you guys, in the office and stuff like that, and having that normalcy for myself has been a challenge as well.
Yeah, I think that's the thing I probably miss the most is just the interaction between coworkers on a daily basis. Like obviously we have some Zoom meetings throughout the day, with different people possibly, but just the interaction of just being able to walk into your office, Kyle, or go across the hall to Hunter's, or go to Ashley's office and just talk for a little bit. And it's not necessarily even about work, but those are the things I honestly miss the most, to be quite honest.
Yeah, and it makes you take stock of everything, and it's like, man, I wish you would have had more conversations with people.
Yep.
This is kind of a life lesson, not to take things for granted a little bit, and also take advantage of what you're given. And we, all have a fortunate position as far as a job goes, that we
Yep.
do what we love, and we're involved in sports, and we get to interact with other people that have the same passion. So I'm looking forward to getting back into the office at some point, and trying to create better, more relationships within our staff and stuff like that, just because it's very eye-opening being kind of isolated like this.
Absolutely.
Kyle, you kind of mentioned it before, but I know you've been pretty busy during the quarantine period. You just closed on a house, but what are some of the things that you've kind of been doing in this long, seems like forever quarantine that started, I think, in early March? But what have you been doing just to kind of keep yourself busy?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, just having 4 kids keeps you busy. Just trying to keep up with the day-to-day. There's always constantly something to do. Everyone that has kids can vouch for that. There's no dull moments in the day. You're constantly picking up, cleaning, helping out, doing whatever you can. But trying to spend some time with my wife, it's still kind of difficult. She works full-time still, and trying to see her and spend time with her has been still a challenge. Like you said, we just bought a new house, brand new house. So there's little projects here. My wife and I, we enjoy kind of doing household projects and yard projects and stuff like that. One of the nice things, I guess, with the new house is there's not much to do around here as far as projects go. But as you put your stuff into it, obviously you're always organizing and stuff like that. So that's kind of been mostly what we've been doing. We just built the storage stuff, in our garage. So that's been fun. We don't have a yard right now because it's all just kind of dirt. So we hydro-seeded that and kind of spending time out there, watering it all the time and just kind of waiting for grass to literally grow has been painful. So our next big project is we're going to build a deck here in the summer once the grass grows. And so I'm excited for that.
That'll be fun.
We bought ourselves a hot tub, and so
sweet.
We'll build a deck, kind of reinforce that pretty well, and so we're able to put the hot tub on there, and then we've got a pond in our backyard, so we've got a nice view. So hopefully, during the fall when I come home from a hard training session, going back there and getting in the hot tub and relaxing, and it sounds nice right now, but there's work to be done.
Yeah, there's no shortage of water then in your place, is there, Kyle? Jeez. Pond and then a hot tub.
No shortage of water, and that's how my wife likes it. So that's
whatever you do to make the wife happy, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah, that's right. She gives me a list of things to do, and I have learned over the years to get them done.
That's awesome.
Yes, you definitely learn that in marriage, that listen to the wife and get it done.
Yeah.
Kyle, how have you also been just staying engaged with the team through the last 3 months? I'm sure quite a few Zoom meetings or phone calls or different ways that you're trying to keep the soccer team engaged and engaged with each other, and just keeping up to date of what they're doing to train and get ready for the 2020 season.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's kind of in the same boat where they're doing Zoom meetings, they're doing the FaceTimes, they're doing phone calls. I think we were pretty heavy into that, in April and quite a bit of May. We were heavy into that. But there can also be overkill, I think. And so, what we've done is, I've sent them their spring and summer workouts. So they've been working diligently on that. That's one thing that we focused on as far as, one thing that we can improve from last year that we can control is that fitness aspect. So they're doing that. But for me as a coach, and I think, one thing that is part of my philosophy is sometimes taking a step back and letting your players have some control and some accountability and some responsibility. And so I've put them in, we've created some accountability groups, and that switches every 3 weeks or so with who's in their small groups. And so, The goal is for them to stay in contact with each other, and hopefully they're learning more about each other and they're learning more about themselves and creating some voices and having that accountability and hopefully out of this we're going to see some leadership evolve and grow. And I think sometimes as a coach you can interject yourself a little too often, and so really here in the past month or so I've tried to take a step back and allow them to lead and then check in with each group and kind of dictate what we need as a group from there. And so it's been good. I think it's taken some time to get used to it, but I think they're catching on, and it's been good for them. And I'm a big believer in if you have a player-led team, you're going to go really far, and you're gonna see some really good benefits out of that. Oftentimes you see a coach-led team that can remain stagnant, so you really need some leaders to step up, and I think that's what we're trying to pull out of this process. And I think this has been beneficial for us because usually in the summertime, at least for soccer, is you don't really have a ton of interaction with your athletes, and so now this has kind of really forced us to maintain that, and now we can kind of alter that and manipulate that so they can kind of get the best out of each other, which is really helpful. And then you see some of these documentaries that are coming out, like the Michael Jordan documentary, and seeing just how far a player-driven team can go. And if you have a coach that can just kind of guide that ship, you can go really far. I'm not saying we have a Michael Jordan or anything like that, but
it'd be nice.
You get the point of a player-led team, I think. And that's ultimately what we're trying to get to. And my job as a coach, I feel, is to point them in the right direction and offer them leadership and guidance. But at the same time, they're growing into they're young women that are trying to learn themselves and learn about each other. And so this is a good way for them to do that and develop their skills and going into life beyond college and soccer.
Kyle, there's something I wanted to ask you, but you're heading into your second year as the Minnesota Crookston head coach. But last year you got hired literally a week before the start of the season, right? So you didn't really get a full off season there. And then now with COVID-19, you don't really get a full off season now. So how have you kind of handled that as a coach? You've had some obstacles thrown your way as the head coach of the soccer team, but what has that been like for you to kind of go through these obstacles and say, hey, it's just another thing, we have to get past it, let's go?
Yeah, you're right on the money there. This has been one of the strangest years of my life, and I talked to Steph about that too, and just this couldn't be more awkward and strange of a year that you could go through, where I got hired late in the process and right before the season, so the whole preseason was just trying to learn my players and trying to get to know them and kind of how they fit into what we're going to do, and then the season happens and that just goes fast, and now you're coaching weekend by weekend, and okay, how do we bridge these gaps and what are we trying to get accomplished? And then for me personally, I was really looking forward to the spring where now we can really start implementing some of my ideas and what we're trying to do as a group going forward and really create our identity, because really last year was just how can we work through this year really quickly. And like I said, it was kind of weekend to weekend with no really these big projects or these big ideas, that we can really lay out, because that, would start in the spring typically. And now we've missed this opportunity, and it's just like, it's crazy, man. And it's difficult as a coach to try and do that, especially because, everything's been really quick for my process as far as our season starting right when I got there, and now the spring being interrupted. And so it's been challenging. It's allowed me to reflect, if anything, on kind of what we need to do, but I'm kind of over that. And so, and I think the players are over that, as far as just hearing me talk about what we're going to do. And that's where, maybe some of my frustration lies as a coach, because I feel like my team has been, or our program has been, hampered a little bit just with the timing of all this stuff, whether it's, just being hired in late in the process, the spring cancellation stuff. And so I'm looking forward to get out there and start implementing some of these things we're talking about. But I think, we can talk until we're blue in the face, and that's what I feel like we've done. And it's just like, okay, let's just get out there and do it already. And so it's been challenging, but at the same time, I'm excited. I'm enthusiastic. I'm passionate about it, and so I think that's all I'm trying to get across to my players right now. And so, I hope that they're looking forward to it as much as I am. And so I think hopefully this fall, as far as returners go, they're going to see a kind of a newer way of thinking and how we're going to try and do things. So yeah, I mean, it's been challenging.
So Kyle, we'll kind of go back to just your journey as a soccer coach, soccer player. Just when was it that you first kind of got involved with soccer as a kid, and has it always been soccer since day one growing up in the Des Moines, Iowa area?
Yeah, I guess. I come from a family that we just didn't really have a whole lot growing up as far as like financial stuff. And so when I was a kid, my parents kind of said, hey, we're going to put you in a sport. What do you want to do? And I was like, okay, what do they involve? And I remember my mom telling me the story about, they were going to put me in baseball or soccer. They asked me what I wanted to do, and I asked them what is soccer and what is baseball. And they said, well, in baseball you throw a ball, in soccer you get to kick a ball. And so I decided I wanted to kick a ball. And that's kind of it. So I started at a young age, about 5 or 6 years old, and it took off. I can tell you it's not the only sport I did. My family's from Kentucky, and so I think when you're from Kentucky, it's ingrained in you that you have to like basketball.
Yep.
And so I played basketball growing up as a kid, and I really, really loved basketball. I still really love basketball. I follow Kentucky basketball religiously. I always have. And so that's a big passion of mine. And, I think maybe if I was taller, that would have been my future. But
awesome.
I took a real liking to soccer early on. And I had parents that, fought for everything that I could do in my life. And so I was really fortunate there that, they would work really hard to put me in things that they could for soccer. And so I was able to, get involved at a young age in Des Moines, like you said, and play there for some great coaches and some good teams. And got to travel all over the United States and got into the ODP program. And that was kind of the biggest thing out there, and got to travel the world and play soccer a little bit. And, I've been pretty fortunate to meet a lot of people and go to a lot of places in my life. And, had a good high school career, had a good college career. And I tried different jobs growing up and right out of college and stuff like that. But, I always kind of coached, and I was always involved with soccer, and that's just something I always wanted to do. So, it definitely wasn't my only thing. I also ran cross country in high school. That was to stay in shape for soccer. I could not stand cross country, but I was pretty decent at it. I think, if you're a competitor, you get put into something and you're going to work at it. And so it took me a little bit to work into cross country, but I ended up being pretty okay at it, I suppose. But my senior year, I remember my parents saying, you don't have to do cross country anymore. And I said, okay, good, I'm done. And so I quit. I concentrated on soccer, and the rest is history, I suppose. So,
Kyle, it's funny how you say about Kentucky and basketball, because I don't know, Sean, how it is in Iowa, but I know as a Minnesota kid, you're almost forced to love hockey. It's like it's kind of like that, but I don't know what it is in Iowa, Sean. But that's funny that you bring that up, Kyle, because I've heard that about Kentucky, that basketball is the thing that really drives that state. So.
Well, in Iowa, I'd say it's a little more wrestling is kind of the bit. Well, it just kind of depends. I mean, wrestling's
Football,
pretty big.
Yeah.
Football. I grew up a lot in Nebraska too, which is 100% football all the time. I mean, Nebraska football is their professional sports team, and so it's 100% football. But yeah, I'd say wrestling's pretty big, but probably not to the extent of Kentucky basketball or Minnesota hockey. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, and I can
Kentucky.
attest to that. My brother grew up, in Iowa, and he wrestled, and my neighbors were big wrestlers, high school coach wrestling and stuff like that, and my high school soccer coach was the high school wrestling coach. I mean, so yeah, wrestling in Iowa is huge, and it's one of the mainstays in that state, and they take real pride of it. And you go to the high school wrestling tournament in Iowa, and there's not a whole lot like it. It's enormous. It's packed. It's passionate. It's crazy. I've been to it. My older brother, he wrestled and was a state qualifier all 4 years and was really competitive. And I remember going watching him wrestle at state, and it was insane. And that's, it's kind of ingrained in you from a young age, wherever you kind of grow up in that part. And like I said, mine was basketball with my family being all Kentuckian. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely different with the wrestling. Wrestling wasn't that big in Nebraska where I lived until I was 12. So moving to Iowa, it's huge. And in the high schools, that's almost the biggest sport. And we had state champions who went on to become national champions at Iowa and Iowa State and Virginia Tech and different places. So it's definitely king. But yeah, I don't, it's a little different just because I don't feel like wrestling's nearly as big in different places around the country. But Iowa, it's definitely king.
Oh yeah. And when I grew up in Iowa, it wasn't like soccer was a big thing. I mean,
No.
It really wasn't. It was in its infancy stages, I think. And now you look at kind of the Midwest in general as far as soccer and how far it's come compared to like when I grew up playing soccer in the Midwest. It's unbelievable night and day as far as how far our sport has come. And now you can go out and recruit all these states in the Midwest, and you're like, wow, there's really good soccer here. Where maybe when I grew up, you maybe had a few teams in the entire Midwest, and typically you had, out of Chicago, you maybe had a team from Omaha that was good. Yep. St. Louis always had good soccer, Kansas City, but now you can go and you can find really good soccer all over the Midwest, which is great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely come a long way in the last 20, 30 years in the Midwest, that's for sure. Kyle, who were some of your key mentors as well, just along the way? You talked a little bit about your experience at Central College where you played and also coached, kind of got your coaching start. I know several of those people at Central had a big impact on you, but just who were some of the other people that just helped pave the way for your career as a soccer coach?
Yeah, I think, I've been lucky to have a lot of good mentors and people that have taught me along the way. And I think sometimes when you participate in sports, it's, sometimes you get lucky in kind of your timing of when you get certain people that come into your life. And so I feel pretty fortunate with the path that I kind of was able to take. And, when I was a kid, that was still in the day where parent coaches were pretty prevalent. You didn't really have a whole lot of these paid coaches that were, professional coaches. So, my dad was our club coach growing up, and he was my first mentor and had a big impact on my life, and especially with soccer, and taught me a lot of things and life lessons through soccer, which is awesome, and got to form a good relationship with my father that way. And but his biggest thing was he put a lot of time and effort to get to know all of our players and a lot of my friends through soccer. And I see that all the time in how I approach my coaching and trying to get to know my players. And, everyone's got a life outside soccer. Everyone's got their own troubles and their own unique stories. And my dad took the time to get to know that with everybody. And even now I can talk to some of my friends and they have fond memories of my dad being their soccer coach, and just how long that's been, and that he is able to establish that. And so it just goes to show you how important it is to be human and to have those interactions, to get to know your people and who you're working with, and just on a personal level. And so he taught me that. And so I take that with me all the time wherever I go. I had, Gary Isles was a huge impact on me. A very calm, soft-spoken coach. I really took to that, knew how to treat people the right way, but was also very informative, always had a purpose for what he was doing, and so I try and take that with me. Like you said, Central College had a big impact on me. Gary Laidlaw was a great coach, and a lot of what he did for me was, how can you get faster in the things that you do? How can you think the game faster? And a lot of that was good for me because, that's stuff I needed as a smaller player. I was, short, but I was also real thin. I was really skinny and got beat up a lot. And so he kind of challenged me on how I can think faster, how I can do things faster. And that was a huge impact for me and my process of how I try and incorporate my trainings and I try and instill that into my team is, if you're feeling comfortable, how can you push yourself to go faster? That's the way you get better. And Mike Kobolinski, who's the head women's coach there now, I played with him for 2 years at Central. A great leader, the best leader I've ever played for, and taking some of his leadership qualities and kind of putting it into my coaching. Dale Weiler, the kind of head of South Dakota soccer right now, and just picking his brain. Him and I have more of a friendly, a friendship relationship, but just being able to talk and kind of pick his brain and kind of bounce ideas off each other. Brandon Barkus is somebody within the conference that I feel like I've been able to pick his brain a lot about stuff. And then, working with Brittany at Sioux Falls and kind of seeing how she does things. So just picking things off of everyone that you kind of learn from but still staying true to your own identity. And so, there's a lot of people, I'm sure I've missed a lot of people, but, those are obviously some big ones that I can think of right off the top of my head. So yeah.
Kyle, I know tracking back kind of to this 2020 season, the fall season, I know talking previous to COVID-19, you were excited about the list of recruits that you had before then. You obviously got a few more, but how excited are you to welcome your first class of recruits? And then jumping off that, just what was it that you were looking for in your first Minnesota Crookston signing class?
Yeah, really excited to get these players in, and it's been a long process to get them here, and so I'm really excited to welcome them here. Right now we've got 6 signed. We've got another commitment, so we're waiting for her to sign. We're really excited about that, and then we've got possibly another one here. And so it's still going, which is crazy to me. We're in June and we're still getting people for 2020, and so. Really excited. I think the biggest thing I was looking for was more of the mental piece of it, to be honest with you, is, we're building a program here and we're trying to get on the right track, and that takes a mindset. And for me, that was the biggest component for all of our recruits was they had to have, first of all, the right mindset of what they were going to get themselves into. They're going to have to dig down and dig deep and really battle and compete, but also people that want to come here and turn this thing around and be a big part of this history that's going to be here. And so the mental piece was huge. Talking to the recruits, getting to know them and kind of where they stood on that mental piece was big for me. But we just need talent. We need a lot of things. And so, I think we're bringing in a really talented class. I think we've got a lot of positions covered, which is great. We had a small roster, so when you bring in, 7, possibly 8 players, that's a big change. And so, we're looking for them to all have impacts, whether it's on the field or off the field or off the bench. I mean, they're all going to have different roles, but having them all bought into the same mindsets is a big, big change for us. And I'm really excited to see that and see how they push our training sessions and how they push the returners. And, I don't think it's any secret that, us as a coaching staff, in any sport was, we're looking to recruit people that are, more talented than the kids that we have here. And the job of the returners is to develop within that time frame so they can kind of stay ahead of that. And so I'm excited to see kind of how that plays out with us, because I think, we've got a lot of upperclassmen that are coming back that really want things to get better and improve here, and they've been working really hard for it. And I know they're excited for some talent to come in and to get pushed. And so, I think that will be a lot more competitive. I think we'll work a lot harder. And I'm really, really excited to get them started and get them working here. And I think it's been good that they've all kind of been interacting now.
Yep.
That's something that's maybe not super typical this time of year, but I know they've all been talking and communicating and getting to know each other. So it's been exciting. I'm excited to get them here, like I said, and kind of see what they can do and see, how that transitions into the college game.
Kyle, I like how you said, the big part of the recruiting piece was to tell these kids, come make history, right? Come be part of the program, because I know that's what Dan Weiss, Sean was here when Dan was hired, but I think he told a lot of the recruits, hey, you can come be a part of history, and obviously they were, so I think, was that kind of your big selling point, was, hey, you can change this program, you can make history and, make the NSIC term, make the NCAA term. Was that your big selling point to these 7, possibly 8 recruits?
Yeah, I think the opportunity to play right away and have a big impact is huge too. But yeah, I think that was probably the biggest part, and having lived through that myself, it's easy to be able to talk about that and to tell them what that feels like and how that process works. And I tell them all the time, when I got recruited, I had a couple Division I offers out there. I ended up going to Division III school in Iowa, at Central College, and it wasn't a program littered with history. And I went into it off the back of a very successful high school and club career. And my freshman year, we won, I think, 4, maybe 5 games. I can't remember exactly how many we won. It wasn't good, and it was hard for me. It was really frustrating. But Gary Laidlaw sat me down in his office, and I'll never forget him just telling me, like, remember what you signed up for, remember what you came here for, remember what we're trying to do here, and ask yourself how you can help and make the difference that we brought you here for. And I took that to heart, and we turned it around really quickly. Obviously, my sophomore year, we went undefeated in the regular season. That's a huge turnaround and a quick turnaround. I would love that if it happened here.
So would we, Kyle. Yeah.
But having lived through that, I can explain to these kids that what it takes. First of all, what it takes to get there, but also the feeling that comes with it, and that it's really hard to explain unless you've lived through it. But it's amazing how you can kind of see the difference that you made. The impact that you made, and now you look back on Central College, and now, like, they just won their first conference championship this past year. They made it to the national tournament for the first time this year. And still, as a player going back in 2001, when I went there as a freshman, I still feel like I had an impact that led him to this point. And that was almost 20 years ago. And so, that's hopefully the impact that these players are going to make here. Obviously, that's, I can relate to that, and that's what I'm telling them. You have an opportunity to come and do that here, but it's going to take work. You're going to go through some rough patches, but ultimately, at the end of the day, if you can work and grind through it, good things are going to happen from it. And so, it's a huge part of where we're at right now, and so I think we have enough people bought into that mindset to make that change, and I'm excited, and hopefully I don't have to wait 20 years to see that. But
no, we hope it doesn't take that long either, but we know it can happen. It can happen here. I mean, we've seen it happen. Baseball, has had quite the turnaround in the last 6-7 years, as has, men's basketball. Women's basketball's found that success, so it can definitely happen at Minnesota Crookston, and we're excited to see that journey play out here with soccer.
Yeah.
So Kyle, you touched on their attorneys coming back. It was cool to see them win that game last year against Minot State. Just kind of a relief. A weight lifted off the shoulder. But now they want to do that more often, right? So what are you most excited about them as you welcome them back for your second year as the head man?
I'm excited for a lot of things with our returners, and I think the one thing that we try to get across to them all fall into the spring and even through all this stuff is, how are you guys responding to adversity a little bit? And they all want great things, but I think they have to live through these tough moments to figure out what it takes. And so when we beat Minot, it was a really great feeling to see them. We struggled throughout the season. I thought we got better. And then when it came to the Minot game, it just seemed like things started to click, and they just believed in themselves a little bit. And I think it took that result for them to have a little bit of a change of mentality. And I think that's what we try to hit home is, your way of thinking has to change if you're going to be successful here. And really that was my goal for year one, is can we get out of this mental state that we're in and kind of have a more positive outlook on things. And there's some games that we went into where you could look at half the room and tell we were done already, and it was my job to try and let's get up for it. And it took the season for them to start finally believing in themselves. And so I was really happy with the Minot result, because it was a tough game. I mean, you guys were there and saw it and witnessed it, and we had to battle through it, and they had to believe in themselves. And it wasn't pretty at times, but man, they dug in deep and they fought like heck, and they got a good result out of it. And I hope that gives them hope. I hope that gives them belief that they can do it. And so, our big message to them now is control the things that you guys can control. You can control to a certain point how fit you guys come in. So we're not wasting a ton of time trying to get you fit like last year. We're not dealing with some injuries that we dealt with last year early on. And so we're hoping that we have a lot better starting point, not only like physically and soccer-wise, but also just mentally. Let's start believing in ourselves here and get these results that we can get. And I think it's getting there, and I think they're excited about it. I think a lot of them have really high hopes and expectations, which is awesome to see. But what I tell them all the time is it's nice to have those, but understand that you have to do something to make change happen. And so it's not just going to happen because you want it to, but you have to actually go out there and physically do something to make this change happen. And so, I love their mindset right now. I love where they're at. I think they're going to be ultra competitive. I think they want to go out on a good note. I mean, we've got 8 2B seniors here. That's a big class for us. And so I know they want to make a big lasting impression here. And I know they've got some scores to settle a little bit within the conference. And, and the one thing I always kind of take away from my talks with Brandon in the conference at Augie is, it's all about kind of your mindset when you go into games. And, if you can start beating some teams consistently, that's when you're going to start climbing the table here. And so, for us, obviously we beat Minot, but, can we do it again? Like, they're going to want to come at us. And so, if that's a program that we consistently get good results against, now if we can pick up a couple more, now you can start seeing us hopefully climb the table. And that's the message ultimately is, your mindset's going to dictate a lot of what we do here. And so, with our returners, I think they're all up for it. I think they're up for the fight. I think they're excited, and, I think they're relishing the opportunity to get back out there and show what they can do.
Kyle, you talk about that adversity, because I know in that game against Minot State, it seemed like the entire second half the ball was in our side of the field, right, or Minot State side of the field, where they were just peppering Athena with shots. But I know that's something that maybe in early September, that's something that the girls wouldn't have been able to handle. But in a later part of the season, I think it was the final 2-3 games of the year, they handled it really well. So hopefully that momentum can carry on into the year, right? Because the adversity was there for that Minot State game, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think, you can look back at early games where, one that sticks out is like Upper Iowa, where we were kind of on the front foot right away, and then we faced a little bit of adversity, and we just kind of crumbled.
Exactly.
And we couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And, I think the one thing that helped us with Minot is we started really well and we got a goal early, and I think that kind of shot some adrenaline and some belief into them. And so, not that you have to score the first goal to have that, but it allowed us to kind of be able to fight through some of that stuff a little bit easier because, hey, we are winning and there is something to fight for here. And so, but our whole season was adversity, whether it be, you guys were there. We had how many weather issues this year, and it is just crazy. Like everything this whole year has thrown at us has been, how are we responding to this kind of adverse stuff?
Yeah, that was the most fall weather adversities that I remember. Remember in any of the 8 falls that I've been at Minnesota Crookston, for sure. You see a lot of weather adversities in the spring. Maybe that was the way, we didn't have a spring, so we had to make up for it in the fall. So.
Yeah. I mean, so these returners, they faced adversity from day one, whether, with it coming from a coaching change, which isn't always easy, a little bit of a change in philosophy, which isn't easy, forming new relationships, trying to navigate the season, a shortened spring season. I mean, they've been through the gauntlet. I think they're just kind of ready to get out there and have a kind of a release them to the wild sort of impact. And so, yeah, I'm excited for them. I think they deserve something awesome, and so, I'm looking forward to how they've approached this off season. And my hope is that they take it seriously because, if they're not doing enough about it, we can easily find ourselves in the same spot that we found ourselves in. And so I hope that they're taking it seriously. And as far as kind of the feedback I've gotten, they are. So I'm really excited for them.
Yeah, we're really excited to get the team back here and getting ready for those games starting in September. And, like you guys touched on, you saw the growth in the team throughout the year, and just really excited to see that next step that you guys are able to take starting in the fall. So yeah, we can't wait to get you guys back on campus and to see what the 2020 season holds. Just thanks for joining us, Kyle. It was a great conversation. Great to talk to you and Hunter, and just again can't wait to see what the girls can do.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. And looking forward to having you guys out there in the fall.
Yes, sir. Thanks, great. Kyle.
And thanks for those fans that will watch this when we post it. But go Golden Eagles, wings up.